Victorian jockey Will Gordon is facing scrutiny from the Victorian Racing Tribunal after being charged with breaching Australian racing's strict ownership rules. The charges stem from his involvement in purchasing a yearling filly on behalf of his partner, raising concerns over the boundaries jockeys must adhere to when engaging in racehorse transactions. The case, now gaining widespread attention in Australian racing circles, has prompted discussions about what constitutes an interest in a racehorse and whether Gordon's actions violated Australian Rule of Racing 116, AR 116, a rule that strictly forbids jockeys from owning, leasing, or holding any interest, direct or indirect, in both named and unnamed racehorses. At the heart of the matter is a Doubtland filly bought at a yearling sale in March 2025. Gordon attended the sale and bid successfully on the filly, ultimately paying $20,050 to complete the transaction. On paper, he was the registered buyer, but the filly wasn't intended for Gordon's ownership. Instead, the horse was purchased on behalf of Tage Weir, a licensed pre-trainer and Gordon's partner. Weir is the daughter of Darren Weir, the Melbourne Cup-winning trainer who was disqualified in 2019 in one of Australia's most high-profile racing scandals. According to documents presented before the tribunal, Weir lacked the funds to finalize the purchase at the time, prompting Gordon to step in as the buyer. While the transaction may have been motivated by a personal relationship, it crossed regulatory lines that exist to ensure transparency and impartiality in racing. AR 116 is clear in its language. It states that jockeys may not own, lease, or even have a partial interest in any racehorse, whether the horse is named or not. This regulation exists to prevent conflicts of interest, insider advantages, and potential manipulation of race outcomes, concerns that racing authorities take very seriously. Gordon's actions, registering as a prospective buyer, bidding on the horse, and ultimately paying for it, were considered sufficient involvement to warrant a full investigation. Will Gordon was formally charged with 2 violations: having an interest in a horse, in breach of AR 116, having an interest in a horse transaction, a more nuanced but related infraction. In an attempt to resolve the matter swiftly, Gordon entered an early guilty plea to the second charge, acknowledging his involvement in the transaction. However, he and his legal team challenged the first, more serious charge. Barristers Damian Shields, who represented Gordon, lodged a no-case-to-answer application in relation to the primary charge. Shields argued that Gordon acted solely as an agent for Tage Weir and never personally held a controlling or ownership interest in the filly. He claimed that once the transaction was complete and the filly was delivered to Weir, Gordon's role ended. But the tribunal wasn't convinced by this defense, at least not at this stage. In a statement issued by the Victorian Racing Tribunal, the panel outlined why it believes the case should proceed. The tribunal highlighted the series of actions taken by Gordon, registering as a buyer, placing the bid, and paying the purchase price as constituting a prima facie interest in the horse. We are of the view that those are factors that constitute the basis of an unanswerable charge, the tribunal stated. They could be summarized as being those involving Mr. Gordon registering as a prospective purchaser, making the successful bid at the auction, and paying for the horse. This conclusion led the tribunal to reject the no-case-to-answer application. While the ruling does not confirm guilt, it does affirm that the case warrants further examination and potentially disciplinary action, depending on the findings of the full hearing. The tribunal made a distinction between the current procedural hearing and a future full contest of the facts. They acknowledged that the burden of proof in a full hearing lies with the stewards, and the evidence could yield a different outcome when scrutinized under those conditions. Of course, we are assessing such factors in the context of a no case-to-answer dispute. The situation in relation to a full contest could well be different. A hearing date will be scheduled in due course, and both the racing community and legal observers are watching closely. The implications of this case extend beyond Gordon himself. It tests the boundaries of regulatory enforcement and offers an important precedent for future cases involving indirect ownership or personal relationships within the racing world. If Gordon is found guilty of holding an interest in a racehorse, penalties could range from fines to suspension and potentially more serious consequences, depending on the tribunal's interpretation of the facts. Racing authorities in Australia have, in recent years, increased their vigilance when it comes to integrity matters, especially concerning conflicts of interest involving trainers, jockeys, and owners. The racing landscape has been rocked by several scandals in the past decade, including the highly publicized fall of Darren Weir, and more recently, concerns over illegal betting, race fixing, and improper associations. The case against Will Gordon plays into that broader narrative. It underscores the importance of transparency in ownership, especially when jockeys who hold immense sway in determining race outcomes become involved in the acquisition or management of horses. Whether or not Gordon's intentions were innocent or misguided, the rules are in place to ensure a level playing field for all participants. Even perceived violations can damage the public's confidence in the sport. While Gordon has remained largely silent publicly, members of the racing community have begun to weigh in on the issue. Some believe the rules may need refinement to distinguish between financial interest and agency roles, especially in cases involving partners or family members. Others insist that strict enforcement is necessary to protect the sport's reputation and fairness. One anonymous trainer remarked, "Will's always been a good jockey, and I doubt he was trying to pull a fast one. But rules are rules. You can't have gray areas in ownership. It just opens the door to all kinds of problems." Tage Weir herself has not been charged with any wrongdoing, and there is no indication that her actions are under investigation. However, her family background adds an extra layer of intrigue to the story. Her father, Darren Weir, was once a dominant figure in Australian racing before being banned for 4 years in 2019 after a raid uncovered illegal training devices and other breaches. While Tage has worked hard to establish herself in the industry, her association with both her father and now Will Gordon invites scrutiny that might not have existed in other contexts. As the racing world awaits the full tribunal hearing, the case of Will Gordon stands as a cautionary tale. Even actions taken with good intentions, such as helping a partner acquire a horse, can result in charges if they run afoul of the sport's complex and often unforgiving regulations. Whether Gordon's involvement was a technical infraction or a breach of racing's ethical core will be determined in the coming weeks. Until then, his career remains in limbo, and the outcome of this case could shape how jockeys interact with ownership transactions moving forward. One thing is certain: integrity in racing is non-negotiable, and the consequences of breaching that trust, even unintentionally, can be severe. Stay tuned to the Prince Green channel for updates on this developing story and all the latest in Australian racing.